The average person under 35 will go through a new job at least every 1 to 3 years on average. Hi, I'm Steve Gedeon, a professor at one of the largest entrepreneurship programs in the world at the Ted Rogers School of Management at Ryerson University in Toronto, Canada. Today I'm going to be talking about the use of entrepreneurial tools, methods, and principles on how to design your career and to design your life. Most business courses are based on a planning-based causal reasoning method. This is where you know what your goal is, and we can give you a step-by-step approach for how to figure out what the right answer is. Professors know what the right answer is, and they give you a step-by-step approach for how to get there. But this assumes that you know what your goal is, and you've got a relatively stable environment for how to get there. This is also the foundation for virtually all career and job planning books, as well as most happiness books and self-help literature. The trouble with planning-based methods is that, first of all, you have to know what your goals are, and secondly, it has to be a relatively stable environment within which you do your planning. And so as long as you know what your goal is, then here's a step-by-step approach for how to get to that right answer. Unfortunately, most people don't know what their goals are, and the world is a very chaotic place. There's tremendous uncertainty. Over 80% of people really don't know what their goals are, and I personally suffered from this for most of my life, that I would read hundreds of books on goal setting, career, happiness, self-help, and they would always start with, well, write down what your goals are, and then here's an approach on how to get there. But I didn't know what my goals were. I was good at school, I was good at my job, but I wasn't happy. I didn't know what I wanted. I hadn't discovered what my goal was, and all of these methods assumed that I knew what my goal was. Most New Year's Eve resolutions fail within a couple of weeks, and only 3% of adults have clearly written goals. Now, if you do have clear written goals, planning-based methods can be fabulous. That goal-setting methods tremendously increase your ability to achieve your intended goal. But it always starts with knowing what your goals are. And especially for a career or a job, a lot of people just don't know what they want. There's also tremendous uncertainty in the world, and this makes any job that you're searching for quite uncertain, and it also really changes your approach to things. There's global competitions. Companies literally fail overnight or lay people off overnight, and this is completely outside of your control. Entire industries can disappear overnight. This could be because of artificial intelligence or the rise of global competition, but very often you're happily working in your job and then suddenly layoff or collapse or something like that. Increasingly, companies are outsourcing jobs to lower cost areas. Why should someone pay you $50,000 a year when they can pay somebody sitting behind a computer in Bangalore or in China or in Bangladesh 1/10 of that amount of money? Not only does this job insecurity happen at the global level or at the company level, but also at the individual level. So with the COVID-19 emergency, you're sitting behind a computer in your home. Well, so is somebody in Bangalore. Why should somebody pay you 10 times as much sitting behind your computer as they're paying somebody else on the other side of the planet 10% of what you're charging? So how do you create value independently and remotely is an important aspect of gaining job security. There's tremendous economic uncertainty in the world as well. There's recessions, depressions, low growth. All of these things affect security. There's excessive debt, both at the country level, at the regional level, at the municipality level, at the company level, but also at the individual and family level. And this huge global debt is going to cause tremendous uncertainty and lack of financial security. There's market bubbles come and go all the time, whether it's a stock market bubble or a housing or real estate bubble or even Bitcoin, that these things come from out of nowhere and are virtually unforeseen. Again, a tremendous source of uncertainty. In fact, this is probably the first generation in history where the children will not have greater financial security than their parents had. The pace of change is increasing. New products, new services, new technologies come and go all the time. There's always a new version of the software out that you have to update, and they've moved all the buttons around and your work processes change. There's new fashions and social etiquette. Things that were really important and funny 2 years ago, no one's even heard of anymore. That was so 5 minutes ago. There's new software to learn, new hardware to learn, and new skills required. This again is a tremendous source of uncertainty. You might have been a guru at Salesforce a couple of years ago, but in the future, who knows if anyone's going to remember what Salesforce even was. The pace of product life cycles has been increasingly compressed. As this figure here shows, it used to be that, for example, when we introduced a new printer, you could take a year or two to design the printer, to ramp up manufacturing, to slowly move these printers into the distribution channel, and then the new Epson version 11 would be the #1 hit for 6 months or 9 months. You could plan for a holiday season of some sort, and then slowly you would replace your Epson 11 with the new Epson 12, or the new Honeywell 15 with the Honeywell 16A, or something like that. But now, your current product hasn't even gone into production yet, and you're already designing the new product. The product life cycles are being dramatically compressed. This is even further the case with entertainment or digital media, where someone can be a YouTube sensation for a week and be a has-been the week after that. That these sources of revenue come and go very quickly. Here's another figure that shows that we're facing the wave of the COVID-19 emergency, but there's a recession coming after that. Then we got to worry about climate change after that. Then there's going to be other sources of disaster coming after that. It's an uncertain world. The fact is, nobody's job is safe anymore. The average person under 35 will go through a new job at least every 1 to 3 years on average. This means that most people under 35 will have at least 10 jobs over the course of their lives, probably more like 20. I've had over 20 jobs in the course of my life, and I'm a little bit over 35. So there's the rise of what's called the gig economy, where people increasingly take a portfolio of part-time jobs and temporary jobs because job security is kind of a thing of the past. On top of that, over 70% of employees are actively disengaged with where they're working. They're not just unhappy at work, but they're actively not doing their job and sometimes subverting the wishes of their bosses and their companies. Most Americans are unhappy with their job, and over 70% of Americans are actively looking for a job even as we speak. So the problem with these planning-based or causal-based reasoning approaches is you have to know what your goal is, and you have to be in a relatively stable environment so that if you deviate from the straight line, you can go back to the straight line to get what you're looking for. And we're increasingly looking for a step-by-step approach to how do I live happily ever after. But in the real world, the world that you and I live in, it's a bit more chaotic than that. People don't know what their goals are. They move in one direction for a while, decide that's not what makes them happy, they move into another direction. The world changes, and they have to adapt, and they move into another direction. And so they're in this constant adaptation to changes in the world, as well as this constant seeking or trying to discover what's my purpose in life, what gives me meaning, what brings me happiness. And just because you knew what made you happy a couple of years ago doesn't mean that it will continue to make you happy in the future. And so sometimes you have to change what your goals are, even in midstream. Fortunately, you're not a victim to all this uncertainty and chaos in the world around you. There are entrepreneurial knowledge, the head, skills, the hand, and entrepreneurial attitudes, the heart. So in this program, I'm going to be teaching you about some entrepreneurial tools and methods like design thinking, lean, agile techniques and tools and methods, as well as entrepreneurial principles that you can apply to your life, your career, your job, and your job search. We'll be talking about entrepreneurial skills like being alert to the world around you and curious about what your interests are and being proactive in getting out there and discovering and searching for what makes you happy and what brings you meaning in a job or in a career. We'll talk about being resourceful, networking, selling, and negotiating around that career or that job. And we'll talk about being adaptable and agile when the world around you changes. We'll talk a lot about self-management, time management, and also journaling in order to document which things work for you and which things don't work for you to improve your life. Finally, we'll be talking about the heart, entrepreneurial attitudes like internal locus of control, or as I like to think of it, having my hand on the steering wheel of my life. I might not be able to control if the road is slippery, but I know that I'm in control of the things that I'm in control of, and I proactively take that control over things that I can. We'll also talk about grit, tenacity, resilience, and how to be adaptable to the changes in the world around you. So all of these tools, principles, skills, and attitudes apply to 4 specific domains of entrepreneurship. First, it applies to whether you're looking to be self-employed or start a new business or some kind of a side hustle. And this is what we think of as traditional entrepreneurship. And this is what's taught in most business schools throughout the world, this new company startup approach to entrepreneurship. And this is where most of the tools were developed in the first place. But they also all apply to intrapreneurship or corporate entrepreneurship. This is where you've got a job working for someone else, but you're entrepreneurial in the way that you approach your job to create innovation and change and new products and services and to create value within the context of that employer. We'll also talk about social entrepreneurship, or seeing the world not just as it is, but as it can or ought to be, and then being proactive to bring about that change in the world. And this could be to fight racial inequality, this could be a new political organization, or a new community program. Finally, all of these entrepreneurial tools also apply to your own life, to look at your own life in an entrepreneurial way, to say, how can I be a better human being? How can I be a better father, a better son, a better student, a better professor, a better human being? How can I use entrepreneurial tools to develop my character and my habits and the things that are inside of my control? You have to be able to change yourself before you can change the world. Learning entrepreneurship is like learning how to play the guitar. You don't learn how to play the guitar by reading a book about how to play the guitar. You learn how to play the guitar by playing the guitar. That we can teach you musical scales and theory and principles about what makes a good song or what doesn't make a good song, but at the end of the day, you have to play the guitar. You have to play it till you grow calluses. Sometimes you'll play it too long and your fingers will bleed and it hurts a little bit, and you have to have perseverance and tenacity to grow those calluses. But at the end of the day, you have to crank it up to 11, find other people to jam with, and have a song in your heart. You have to have that heart, those attitudes, in order to make beautiful music with other people. So today we've learned a lot of things. We've covered the difference between planning or causal-based reasoning and search-based effectuation methods to search and discover new goals and to adapt to change and uncertainty. We've learned that planning requires known goals in a relatively stable environment, and that there are many sources of job insecurity and job uncertainty in the world. We talked about entrepreneurship as a methodology and skills and attitudes for how to deal with uncertainty and how to discover and search for goals. Finally, we covered the 4 major domains of entrepreneurship and how they apply to designing your career and your life. Thank you very much for joining me today, and don't forget, entrepreneurship is like playing the guitar. Turn it up to 11, grow those calluses, find other people to jam with.